Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Paige Smith and I'm a student majoring in communication and media at Clarkson University. Today we are hosting a candidate conversation with Marianne Ashely, a candidate for Mayor of Canton. Ms. Ashely, a Republican, is running on the Democratic ticket. Joining her in conversation is Liam Hunt, Professor Emeritus of History at St. Lawrence University and a member of the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County, and JoAnn Rogers, an assistant professor of sociology at Clarkson University. These nonpartisan conversations with candidates ask each candidate to explain the position, records, and ideas. Both candidates running for Mayor of Canton were invited to appear. Only Ms. Ashely accepted. We look forward to a thoughtful and civil discussion of the issues. Professor Hunt, will you get us started?
Sure.
Thank you.
Welcome. This is an interesting situation. It's a rather unusual candidacy. It would be unusual at any time, perhaps, to have a Republican running on the Democratic ticket. But at today's partisan political climate, given what's going on in Washington as we sit here speaking so cordially, it's almost astonishing. How did this come about?
Well, I decided I would like to be the mayor of Canton, and as village election law allows, candidates are put on the ballot by caucus only. It does not allow for primaries. And if you have two candidates from the same party that are interested in running, it doesn't allow for a full voter base to decide who is on the ballot. I was asked 2 years ago to run on the Democratic line, and at that point I was not ready to run for mayor. However, I felt that this was the time, and I approached Democrats 4 months prior to the caucus. And my goal was to be on both lines, because I serve all the people. I don't serve just Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or blanks. I serve all the people. So I had the conversations well in advance of the caucus in order to get on both lines. It didn't work out that way, but
Right. Well,
this allows for
I hope this isn't an indelicate question, but how do you account for the fact that you apparently have more of a base of support among the Democrats than among members of your own party, at least locally?
Well, I just feel that many Republicans did not attend the caucus. When I had intended that they were, I'm thinking that they may not have wanted to get involved. It may have been a bad night. I only lost by 10 people.
But ideally, you would have liked to have been on both.
Ideally,
on
yes.
On both
that
lines.
was my goal.
That's an unusual ambition in today's political climate. JoAnn?
Wow, that's fabulous, by the way. What are the principal problems confronting the village of Canton, and what as a mayor can you do about them?
Well, I've been on the board for 3 years, elected twice, and what I am seeing is our infrastructures need attention and upgrade. And it's a 3-point infrastructure plan for me. First, you need to get your financial base in order. We have an approximately $6 million budget with a $4 million deficit. Debt reduction is my priority, and I have worked to already start that system in place. So we need to get our financial house in order, in my opinion. The second is we need to invest in the working conditions of our employees. The infrastructures of the buildings in our village need upgrade. Our DPW building, that needs upgrade. The municipal building, that needs upgrade. For me, the heating and ventilation, air conditioning in that building alone is not healthy for our employees. And you need to invest in your staff so that you can have excellence in municipal services. And that's the third structure that we need to invest in. We need to continue upgrading our water and sewer lines. We just went through that major renovation down Main Street. But there are other areas in the village that need upgrade. We need to invest in completing the rest of our roads, upgrading the roads and the sidewalks. We are currently looking for an additional water source because that's become an issue for our village. So it's about the infrastructure that we need to really focus on. And we need to do that by establishing viable partnerships with the town, the colleges, businesses, the county. We need to work closer with our state and federal representatives. So for me, it's about upgrading the infrastructures.
Well, let me ask the obvious question that always gets pitched at people who have creative ideas of what to do with government. How are you going to pay for it? I mean, you have a reputation for being fiscally very responsible, if not conservative, and at the same time, you have a fairly ambitious agenda for improving the infrastructure. How do you balance those priorities?
Well, the first 2 years I was on the board, we did raise the water and sewer rates by 3% each year. We did not raise the tax rate for the 35% of property owners that pay 100% of the taxes. So everybody uses water and sewer, so we needed to increase those rates. For this past year, I advocated that we need to really look at our finances.
Could you explain how you raise rates without raising the taxes?
Well,
What actually was the change that you made?
I'm sorry.
In terms of, you said you raised the rates.
The water and sewer rates
Okay.
by 3% each year.
But you did not, you said, raise them for people who were paying 100%.
The taxes.
Okay.
Okay, the budget is general fund, water and sewer fund.
Okay, so rates, not taxes, okay.
So for this past year, in really examining the budget, I advocated for us to increase the time frame that we look at the budget, and I advocated for a zero-based budgeting, that we need to cut spending. We need to pay off some of this debt that we have because of the amount of interest that we're paying on our bonds, which is a substantial amount. And we need to really look at what our needs are and what direction we're going. So for this past year, we did 4 things. We didn't increase the tax rate. We did not increase the water and sewer rate. We cut spending. I advocated for 25%. We got 10 from the board, which is a good start.
Cut where?
In each department.
Just across the board?
Across the board, 10% cut. And then our biggest bond was for the fire station, to the tune of $695,000. That was the loan balance that we had. So what we did is we took money out of our fund balance to pay off that, which will be done in January.
Where would you locate yourself on the liberal conservative spectrum, or would you reject that spectrum as not being terribly informative, at least in local politics?
I'm a fiscal conservative. Socially, I'm a liberal. As far as...
Can you develop that a bit?
Well, social issues. I am fully in support of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender population. I have advocated for the Gay Straight Alliance and worked with the local high school who fully embraced that. And so we do have a Gay Straight Alliance program at Canton Central.
Presumably in favor of marriage equality and so on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If I may jump in here, you've talked about infrastructure and the high school, and as we know, there's a crisis surrounding our school finances and how we're going to remain viable in the future. And so this is partially a 2-part question, because infrastructure and our school system go together, but also infrastructure and attracting new members to our community. And I also feel that our school and attracting new members to the community go together. And how do you feel about that, or what do you think as mayor you can do about this?
Well, we have the Canton Community Action Plan and the Waterfront Revitalization Plan. But what we really need to do is start sharing services. And when Jesse Coburn left the village board and was running for the town board, I looked him right in the eye. I said, if you get elected, we need to start a shared services committee and start working towards looking at all intermunicipal agreements. And then we need to branch out. We need to have meetings with the colleges, with the high school, with the county to see what we can do to share those services, perhaps with the surrounding municipalities. Just case in point, our DPW and Town Highway. They are two viable departments. What can we do closer together? What can we do with the school to share our services?
And by shared services, do you mean sharing services with the local communities besides Canton? Because there's been talk about busing students from county to, or from Potsdam to Canton, or vice versa. And is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking more of partnerships with all those entities, so that we can all benefit. As you know, Canton and Potsdam right now they just got approved to do a study that was funded on merger possibilities. We need to work closely as a municipality with the county and their DPW unit and with the town garage. And how can we help the school? There's been talk about maybe a shared gas facility throughout those whole entities, so we can all benefit from them, and maybe it's a little bit less expensive than to have separate things throughout our village.
Okay.
Yeah.
The powers of a village mayor are obviously not enormous, county legislators either, but there is a role, it seems to me, that apart from the responsibilities and powers that you do have, a role of advocacy. Do you see yourself as serving as a kind of advocate for the village of Canton, the citizens of Canton, to the business community, to other levels of government, for example, to the state assembly and so on? And how might you play that role, and how might your constituents, your citizens of Canton, communicate their needs and their expectations to you?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I have already done that as a village trustee. I have served on the Save Our SUNY Canton committee and worked closely with that team because of the hit that SUNY Canton took regarding our president. And there was a possibility of a shared president between the two campuses. So I served on that committee. More recently, with the CSX increase in speed issue, wasn't too happy about that. And I was hearing from our constituents that, what is going on, because it clearly wasn't communicated the way it should have been to the community that this was going to happen. And how that all came about is when CSX decided to raise the grade by 17 inches, and the DOT didn't even really know about that change. So that was a little disheartening. So I did advocate to the village board that we need to contact CSX, which we did by letter, ask them to converse with us about what's going on. And let's have a conversation at the table. Why has this happened? Why do you need to go 40 miles an hour through the village? And can it be changed back to our local law of 25 miles an hour? So we did send a letter, and at the same time I contacted Senator Ritchie and asked for her assistance, and she did conduct a meeting between us village officials and CSX, and it was very productive. So I have advocated for our community.
What about the business community? What about the possibilities of, on the one hand, attracting more business of the right sort to the village, encouraging local startups, small businesses, doing something about the wasteland that surrounds the old IGA, that huge area, which is, as I'm sure we all agree, something of an eyesore, and has been frustrating to me as a resident of Canton for the past 20 years or so. I realize that the mayor doesn't have enormous powers in this regard, but how would you approach that problem? How would we get more vibrant businesses and fewer empty storefronts in the center of the village? Well,
Liam, I already have. As a village trustee, I've served on the Economic Development Steering Committee for 3 years, and I have advocated that we start implementing the Canton Community Action Plan a little bit more aggressive, but we also need to do something to bring businesses to Canton. So what I proposed is that we do a marketing outreach project, for which the committee agreed. The village has funded. I went back to the village and said, we need $5,000 to fund this project. We want to send out 500 packets marketing Canton and asking businesses to consider coming to Canton. So that's the first thing that I have done. The second thing is I've advocated for the steering committee. Let's work with Mr. Cohen, who is the owner of the
Yes.
old plaza.
Yes.
So what we've
And
done is we have had conversations over the phone with him. We asked him to meet with us. He came up. We toured his facilities. And we're continuing to work with him. As a matter of fact, I just had tea with him Friday morning down in New York City. I asked him to meet with me again to see how we can move forward with getting his property developed.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up hope on this, and it has been years. And I think we both want the same thing. It's how we get there that there might be a little bit of a difference, but I have hope that Mr. Cohen will work with us closer.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Yes.
My question also goes back to, so not only attracting businesses, but how would you attract the younger community, right? The younger members of society, or college students. How would you attract them to staying, or if they do leave, to come back? You know, how would you sell Canton?
Again, it goes to marketing and letting the public know what Canton has to offer. And we need to do better as far as communicating that with all of our constituents. And if elected, I will be contacting each president of each college and asking for a forum of some sort to meet with student bodies, perhaps send a letter saying, welcome to our community. And this is what Canton has to offer. As a matter of fact, our Chamber of Commerce already sends out hundreds of packets to the new freshmen coming in. So part of our marketing outreach project is we have purchase folders. So we want to put all of our information in those folders to be able to hand to those students. So it's a matter of communication and developing closer partnerships and trying to meet with people.
On infrastructure, on a broader sort of scale, I realize that the mayors of villages don't determine transportation policy on a high level, but nonetheless, I'm sure you have your opinions and you have some influence. The controversy, or at least the discussion going on here, over four-lane highway, rooftop highway, as opposed to improvements to Route 11, possible bypass. What are your feelings on that?
We have a wonderful Main Street. New York State just invested $10 million. Our share was a little over $1 million to upgrade that. We want to increase the number of businesses there, and we want that to be flourishing. There is debate about the level of traffic that goes through there, the trucks, the noise, the pollution. So if that's going to be revisited, I think it really needs to be studied, and all important parties need to have input into that conversation. I understand that the Regional Economic Development Council is looking at some type of bypass between Canton and Potsdam as one of their priorities. So what we're going to have to do is say, we'd like in on the conversation.
Right. And there's a lot of concern among merchants, of course, that a bypass kills the center of town. The possibilities, of course, of having a truck bypass, if you could guarantee that trucks would use it and not everybody else, I mean, it would obviously improve the quality of life in the center of town. What about your feelings about the so-called I-98 project? Does that seem to you worth pursuing? Obviously, it's going to take a lot of federal money to happen at all. So the question really comes down to whether or not DOT, Department of Transportation funds that have been actually allocated to improve Route 11 should be diverted to essentially more feasibility studies is what it comes down to, which I understand the argument there. How do you feel about that? There's certainly a lot of things that could be done to Route 11 short of a bypass, passing lanes and so forth.
Well, it goes back to my infrastructure position is, I think we need to invest in the infrastructures, and I would have to do more homework on the whole project in order to come to a better opinion on it. And as mayor, it's a team. It's a team of 5 people. And they are equally as important. Trustees and mayor, to me, it's equally important as far as what do we feel as a team that would be in the best interest of our community. So to be able to study that, we would have to have the proper information and really look at the data.
So it's a team that you're working with, mayor and trustees, and you've been a trustee. So how is this going to be different for you to run as mayor or to be mayor, and what changes do you foresee?
There's going to be a lot of changes. The trustees serve on the committees, and I've been on about 10 of them, okay? Whereas the mayor is the facilitator of that. So I've worked really hard on those committees, and we've gotten a lot of work done. So that's going to be a big change. But I will be focusing my time on the facilitation, the partnerships, making sure our plan of action is put in place. As a matter of fact, my very first order of business will be to have a strategic visionary planning session with the board to develop annual goals using our Canton Community Action Plan and Waterfront Revitalization Plan as our frameworks. So it's going to be a different role, and I will miss the committee work. But there are other things that the board might want me to focus on. I think we need to work closer with our state and federal representatives. We need to be part of the associations of mayors at the county level and at the state level. We need to be a voice at that table too.
This is a very agricultural county, and interesting things are happening in agriculture. The growth of interest in natural foods, organic foods, humanely handled foods, and so forth. There are a lot of sort of small enterprises starting up. Now, most of these will not happen right in the center of Canton, but there are issues, of course, about the rights of people to do small-scale gardening and even market gardening. This was a big issue in the town, of course, over the past year. What are your feelings on that? What role does the village government have? I got the impression, following this debate, that the village actually has much more sort of expansive and tolerant attitude towards small-scale agriculture than the town, which struck me as rather odd. Well, what are your feelings about that? Is there anything need to change the zoning, or is there anything we need to be concerned about?
No.
Should people be able to have chickens in village?
Yes.
But not roosters?
There's a local law on the books, and
right.
We've allowed 3 families to have chickens, and there's certain things that they had to do. Get the neighbors' approval, and there's only...
It's the kind of thing that seems to produce gunfights in other villages, and we managed somehow to resolve them without most of us even hearing about it. But,
I believe that if you can create your own food source, and you're interested in doing that, absolutely.
Well, if you object to your neighbor's chickens, you can buy a fox. I suppose. No, that's
but there's been no complaints since we've allowed that, and I think it's a good thing.
There we go. I'd like to raise again a sort of the philosophical, political issue, how delightful I find it, frankly, that we do have this kind of cross-partisan thing or non-partisan cooperation. But what do you think are the differences, or should be the differences, between a Republican and a Democratic approach to politics? Assuming we have sane, cooperative, civic-minded people on both sides. What are your feelings about, is there an important philosophical difference? Is there a sense in having a two-party system at all, or should we just elect good people to do good things?
My philosophy is it's about the people. And we are so divided because of money, because of religion, because of party politics, and to me, it's about helping people and meeting people's needs as much as a government should be allowed to do. I just feel that we're divided in so many ways, and it really creates conflict. Look at what's going on at the national level right now.
It seems to have gotten worse.
It does.
Doesn't it?
It does.
How do you account for this? I mean, we're not at war. We've encountered some very difficult racial and gender problems, which we seem to more or less have resolved. And yet, a certain kind of Republican and a certain kind of Democrat are locked in this death grip here that seems to be paralyzing our entire polity. Does that make any sense to you?
It does not make sense to me. It does not make sense, because at the end of the day, it's about how can we help our constituents and what is the long-term goal. And certainly there's going to be conflict, there's going to be differences of opinion, but how we get there, you know, we have to keep in mind that it's about the people. It's ridiculous what's going on, if I may be blunt.
Yeah, and I agree, right? So that really begs the question then as to what do you see the role of government, right, as in terms of helping people? Because there are some philosophical differences in the way that both parties view help and what is considered help.
And there is a boundary there. And for me, government, I'll just talk about village government,
That's
is
fine.
we collect...
All politics, as Tip O'Neill famously said.
We collect taxes to provide municipal services. And it's important that those services are at a very high standard of performance. And when those things aren't being done and there's complaints, then we need to address those issues. However, if someone comes in and they need money, food, shelter, we, as elected officials, need to be able to steer them to the proper support system. And in Canton, at the All-American Cities meeting we had the other night, we are realizing that Canton is so special in that way as far as the level of volunteerism and how people care for each other. Just look at the ice storm, for instance. We were talking about that. People didn't have to think about how to take care of each other. It just happened. And that's what's magical about Canton, is because we do take care of each other. And there is only so much government can do. We can't fix everyone's problems, but we can certainly try to steer them to a support system that can help them.
Anything you'd like to add?
I just would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the AAUW for providing me with this opportunity to express my views, and I'm certainly available for any questions. We do have a website, votecantonvillage.com, if anybody would like further information.
And I've been there.
Okay,
Next.
good,
Next.
good.
Okay. Well, just one final question. How can people participate more actively in local government without running for office?
Well, it's important. When I served on the school board, we, for 2 terms, we always talked about...
I'm sorry.
Oops, okay.
But we're out of time. Thank you,
Okay.
both candidates. These candidate conversations are a production of North Country Matters, produced here in the studios of WCKN on the campus of Clarkson University. This show is a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women, the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, and Communication and Media Department of Clarkson University. Until next time, remember, your North Country matters.